All right, so we're back covering day one. Here's to hoping no more technical issues. And where we left off before the technical issues arose, we were discussing Edge and CM Punk's character. And the point I was bringing up was, because you mentioned how most of CM Punk's career was actually going against the fans. It was like he had the straight edge society gimmick where he was against the fans. He had... I guess you would call it the cult of personality gimmick, where he was the anti-hero, and even then, when he was going against the company and the authorities at the top, he was still also resentful of the fans because they were the ones that contributed to it.
Yeah, in the infamous pipe bomb promo that people herald like gospel, at the end he says, "And you're the reason why all this is happening. You're buying the cups I'm not on and the programs that I'm not on." Right? Yeah. And his big heel turn during his championship run took out The Rock and resents the fans for being the reason why The Rock's there. You know?
Yeah.
We're dealing with a funny, older, babyface version of these characters that, hard to connect with.
Yeah, especially because of how long, people knew them as the heel people. Even when they were, crowd favorites, like with Edge and Christian being a tag team, they still, for the most part, were heels during their tag runs.
Yep. And over on AEW's side of things, Christian is, more charismatic. Captain Charisma. He's more lovable. Like, I don't know what's going on with Edge. So what did you think of the match, Jack?
I thought it was decent for what it was. Especially, I don't know. It's tough to describe, but they had interesting back and forth moments, but it wasn't necessarily the greatest, and I feel like people heralded it more for the stuff that happened after the match than during the match.
Yeah, we're definitely talking about a match whose memory will solely focus on what transpires after the pin. CBS Sports gave this a C-. It's the lowest grade of the night and called it plotting, which I firmly agree with. There was this funny thing. Maurice looked like she was going to get involved the entire match, and it looked like she was waiting for her cue. She kept looking at Ms. Edge, the ref, and it looked like she kept second guessing herself. I don't know if that was good character work or bad timing.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I think they play... It might be part of a character work because of the fact that, when the Miz hid behind her to avoid getting speared.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a play on that, but yeah, I did notice that too. It was a couple of awkward moments where... Yeah.
It was a Miz match, if anything. It was a very safe match. It was... it wasn't... I was on my phone the most during this match. I was, you know what I mean? I was checking Instagram. This one I felt from... I was watching it after the fact, so I was skipping too. Just skipping. Let's skip 15-second bits here and get to things happening. And what absolutely starts happening is towards the end of the match. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So, we finally see Maurice get involved when the Miz distracts the ref. She hits Edge with her purse.
Yep.
And then the Miz hits Edge with a skull-crushing finale, but it's not enough.
Nope.
And then, the part that I mentioned that was the main point of attention, Beth Phoenix comes out to help Edge.
Kinda. She comes out to stand menacingly, and then her music plays, and then she comes down. It was weird.
Yeah, I feel like it was also... It was I feel like that was probably a miscue from the production truck, if anything. It was very odd. But,
yeah.
It's definitely, like I said, it's definitely the part people remember the most. Because, hey, for the most part, we haven't seen Beth Phoenix since, I want to say, WrestleMania 35.
Or something, besides her NXT commentary.
Yeah. So she comes out and, for the most part, I won't say it's surprising in the sense that we saw her step away from her NXT commentary position. Mm-hmm. And, with Maurice coming back with the Miz, people, immediately assumed this was where things were heading.
And it's weird, Jack, that they did. But people do this all the time. and here it's come to pass. But it's weird when they think, like, we fantasy book, right? Like, what weird logic is this? Hey, you're married to a wrestler, and I'm married to a wrestler, so there should be a match where we put ourselves against each other. Like, why do we have to do that, Jack? Why is this a storyline that we so easily adopt?
Yeah.
And it happened! It's weird. I mean, I guess they're getting kicks out of working with their partner and stuff from some or other. But Jack, I saw an artist create a drawing of Edge and Beth Phoenix, and he called them Team Grit with the rated R. Because I guess they're both going to come out and start talking about how kids today just want things handed to them. And this is stupid, Jack. This is really bad. Edge already started with, you expect people to respect you. I earn it. And you're like, come on, man. The Miz has been working for almost 20 years at this thing. He's earned it, too.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where they go. And it's going to be interesting to see if Beth is also coming back for the Rumble, because I don't want to sound mean, but I don't think they have enough women on their roster to hold a 30-women Rumble at this point without bringing a ton of people back.
Goodness gracious. It's WWE's Women's Royal Rumble featuring Shimmer. Which one is the one that you watched, Jack?
Stardom.
Featuring Stardom.
For the first time ever, they're gonna finally pair with Impact just to borrow a couple stars.
Let's go. Here it is. Yeah. So Beth Phoenix comes out and stand menacingly with Edge, and I'm grossed out, and things are weird, and they're gonna start talking at them about, you don't know anything about respect. Maurice will be like, I was Divas champion. Like, we run a successful USA Network show. Like, look at this body after 2 children. Work was done.
Yeah. It's going to be real interesting to see where they go.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be interesting to see how Edge and Miz play a part into it because of already having this match and the promos they had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what furthermore are those two going to bring up to one another?
I don't know. And how are we going to fit the Brood in, Jack, awkwardly? This reference to literally a season of 1999. A low point for a good night of action, and we're going to get back to the good action in the next match.
Yeah. Raw Women's Championship match. Champion Becky Lynch defending against challenger Liv Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I'm glad to see Liv Morgan finally getting the push that the fans have been calling for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm real interested to see where they go from here.
Mm-hmm.
Because their booking coming into this match was interesting. They had the match on Raw, and even though she lost, they found a way to build from there onto this next match. Which, credit to them. This is what the fans have been asking for, in the sense of, we don't mind the rematches as long as it makes sense from going from match 1 to match 2 to whatever matches follow.
Agreed.
Some type of build from the previous match, some type of build from the previous feud and promos, that allow it to make sense for a rematch happening.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as the match goes, I do this, Jack, and I don't know if I do it more with women's matches, but I remember the Ty Conti Britt Baker match from last year, and it felt slow. It felt like somebody Ty was waiting too long to do things, and I did not get that here. I thought Liv Morgan was fighting like she was fighting for the women's championship, coming after Becky from all angles. They were outside. She goes, bam, taste the table,
Yeah.
I was excited, and the crowd were audibly excited as well.
Yeah, they were really behind Morgan, and it's partly okay. I'll give full credit. It's Morgan getting over with those fans and really improving from when she first started. And a tiny bit of it just has to do with the fact that for the most part, fans have been kind of vocal about wanting to see Becky drop that title already.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I don't. gosh, Jack, she won it so nefariously in less than a minute against Bianca Belair at that SummerSlam, and I don't think people have let her, get past that. They're like, ooh, you shouldn't have this,
Yeah. So, but Liv really showed out in this match, especially, to be given with pay-per-view matches, obviously get more time than, TV matches do for the most part. So, had more time to show off her offense, especially being that, even though, you typically see the heels getting in the offense, the story they're kind of playing here is like how you mentioned, where she was kind of acting in a more fast-paced way to not allow Becky to get on top and gain any type of momentum or advantage over her.
And I think I heard commentary say this. I don't think I was making this up. I think they were talking about the things she'd learned from her previous matches with Becky Lynch. You're like, great, this is solid. I hate, Jack, whenever a champion, especially like Becky Lynch, like sit up from a 2 count and do that face, that Tessa Blanchard face, that like I'm solving a calculus problem in my head, and if I don't, the world's going to explode face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who had just recently did it right? I was watching wrestling, and somebody sat up from a 2 count, hit the mat. Maybe it comes later in the WWE Championship match, but like they hit the mat, they look mad. I'm like, yes, that's the look. Don't sit up like, the Undertaker just won't die look. That's what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing Triple H, WrestleMania 17, the Undertaker kicked out at 2 after a pedigree.
Yeah, I think
they're all doing that, Jack.
I think you brought it up. I'm trying to remember. I think it was one of your top 10 matches of last year that you brought it up. I can't remember which one, but yeah, it's a point that I see a lot of people bring up, especially when it comes to kickouts, where it's like, they either have like this confused look or like they have like this really like shocked expression, like, oh, it's so surprising that they kicked out of this move, but like the best ones are usually like, to me are like the people who just, they immediately get mad and immediately go to like try something else, like,
yeah. But Becky's like looking at her hands. She's counting her fingers. She's like, it's supposed to be the, what do I gotta do to put her away? But it's only like the second pinfall attempt. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, gosh, maybe your finisher, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you can't expect the bootleg version to be as affected as the original version.
Oh, sure. We're not done with those hot takes. Get your oven gloves, people. I thought, like, the things that I liked was when Liv was getting a real, groove in, Becky would leave the ring. That was good. That was, like, really, really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
that. And I think there was a bit where Liv, like, throws her into the ring and she just rolls out of the other side. And you're like, yes. You talk about Becky not being, like, a good heel or having a hard time being the mean person. And, like, Edge finding it hard to be the good guy. You just have to stand back and remember how good Daniel Bryan is. Like a faucet, Jack. He can turn it on like a faucet.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Man, more people should honestly... I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, during this time there, more people didn't, like, try and learn the best room. But, yeah, Daniel Bryan definitely knows really well how to just flip it like that. And, especially because I think you remember during the build-up after he won the Eliminator tournament, everyone was like, well, how are they going to do this? I mean, no one puts it against All Elite Wrestling to, do a babyface versus babyface. And they didn't even try and lean into that. Bryan immediately just was like, nope, turning heel. Or
he said, you know what I'm going to do? He says, you know what I'm going to do? You know that group you all love, the Dark Order? You know how lovable they are and how fun they are? I'm going to beat them all up. I'm going to beat them all up to the edge of within an inch of their life. And I'm going to
And not only that, in their hometowns as well.
Oh, you like this guy? Is he from here? Well, watch me knock his teeth out of his head. And smile while I do it. Jack, who wins this match between Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan?
Becky Lynch ends up retaining, though with the foot on the ropes. Again, may potentially lead into some other match, maybe like a main event of Raw.
Yeah, she was supposed to have her feet on the ropes, but she was too far from the ropes, and they didn't do that part right.
Yeah.
And I was really worried that Liv was going, because she can't see, right? I was really worried Liv was going to look really dumb going, but her feet were on the ropes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She clearly, like, missed the mark, but what I did like was the Oblivion finisher was reversed into the manhandle slam finish. You're like, that was clever, and Liv beat herself going for that move that put her in position for the manhandle slam. That rope stuff, oof. Rare miss for two-time Bex.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see, like I said at the start, where they go from here with Liv Morgan's booking, Becky Lynch's booking. But I'm a bit more, how would you say? I'm a bit more trusting in their booking for this.
Got you. Optimistic, right?
Yeah, especially because, from, like, I think the main part that really allows me to be optimistic is the booking of Bianca Belair so far since losing.
I see. Yeah. Hey, this kind of brings something to my mind that I think we should discuss after this next match. I think we'll have the time. Jack, I want to hear your prediction for who's going to win the men's and women's Royal Rumble at the end of this month.
All right then. But before that, we get into our fatal 5-way main event for the WWE Championship. Champion Big E defending against former WWE Champion Bobby Lashley, former Universal Champion Kevin Owens, former WWE and Universal Champion Seth Rollins, and former WWE and Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. So, a real star-studded match.
Golly gee, Jack. Can you imagine being in that crowd? These 5 men facing one another in this epic encounter. And each of them got a bunch of interview time throughout the night, in between each match. Big E came out on fire, saying, bring them all, bring on the beast, I'm going to beat him. He sounded great. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins come out and spin a different yarn. It's very, why do these people keep being put in my match, right?
Yeah, I saw someone bring up real quickly, and I wish they would have done this, but because you know how it was originally just supposed to be Big E versus Rollins.
Yes.
Someone proposed the idea that they should have done for each graphic, the moment one more person gets added, Rollins just gets sadder and sadder through the graphic.
He's all smiles, and then he's no teeth smile, and he's grimacing, and now he's just crying. And then Bobby Lashley, you know what I really enjoyed about his interview segment? Oh, and we got to talk about Lesnar's. But Bobby Lashley, when they come to him, MVP does most of the talking. I think that's just a really good use of MVP. He says everything you want to hear about him, right? And he's like, hey, we welcome him. We're going to beat him too. And it was great. But Jack, did you catch the Brock Lesnar interview?
Yeah, I caught it. Yeah.
Brock Lesnar answers his own door. He never answers his own door. But was it Caleb Braxton?
I think it was Caleb Braxton.
She knocks on the locker room door. It's usually Paul Heyman. We saw him get laid out by Roman Reigns on SmackDown and fired unceremoniously. But Brock Lesnar answers his own door, takes the mic, and does the ladies and gentlemen bit with the crowd, and they're all into it.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, that we, out of everything we got last year and in the past couple years, we're getting not only babyface Brock Lesnar, but a babyface Brock Lesnar that actually has the crowd support behind him.
And talking, Jack, he's never been good at that. And he's just saying the right things that just come off so organically and then having so much fun. I love him just owning. Brock Lesnar is going to do whatever Brock Lesnar is going to do. And you know what he does? He just changes the name of the title because who's going to tell him otherwise? He says he's going to be the WWE Heavyweight Champion of the world. You're like, they don't call it that anymore, Brock. One last thing, when Seth Rollins is lamenting how many times this match has changed, right? I love that he goes, Kevin Owens lied his way in, Bobby Lashley bullied his way in, and he goes, and Brock brocked his way into this match.
All 5 men in this match are so great, and real quickly, I just got to bring attention because it was the one thing we were hoping for. I can't remember around what time it was that we were hoping for it to happen. But you were saying, give Bobby Lashley Brock Lesnar, and this match was, before we get to the ending stuff of it, this was the closest we all thought we were gonna get to it.
It's the closest Bobby's literally gotten to the man in 15 years, and it was so good, Jack. It was so good. We see at the start of the match, we see Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins double team him, only to get suplexed out of their lives, out of their shirts, right?
Yeah.
And then we find our way outside. Big E clotheslines Brock Lesnar outside, and Big E looks so strong, knocking Brock Lesnar out of the ring. Sets up what?
He drives him right into that barrier area, and Lashley just comes out of nowhere, full speed, and spears Lesnar's life out of him through that barricade.
And my heart is racing, Jack. Now I'm hooked. And with Lesnar out of the picture, again, any of these guys could have won this match. Oh.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the fact that Rollins and Owens just started teaming up for a lot of the spots too, because it's it's just so odd to see those two men teaming up out of anyone, but it's funny to see. And then for the most part, to play up the unpredictability of this match, everyone was looking strong in it, And
it's funny, in my headcanon, why are Rollins and Owens teaming up so much? Because you've got the barn of a man that is Brock Lesnar, right? And you've got the house and barn of a man of Bobby Lashley. And can you imagine a match where Big E is not the biggest man in the match? Yeah. But Big E is himself just a monster. So you got the two non-monster men realizing where they are.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, because I saw a ton of memes where they were playing up, that Rollins was the smaller man in the match. And anytime I saw the memes, I was like, how are you sneaking Kevin Owens in there? Kevin Owens is about the same size as Rollins, Kevin Owens ain't nowhere near the size of the other three men. If anything, they should both be together, which again plays up the fact and makes sense as to why they're teaming up in this match.
Goodness gracious. Jack, what are your what were some spots or moves that stuck with you?
There was Owens doing the frog splash off the apron.
Onto Lesnar?
Yeah, onto Lesnar. That was really good, There was Big E just putting Lashley straight through the announcer's table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just to be expected that this, here we go again. As I said in the top 10 list, here's how we're proving we're not on any company's payroll. This match right here is what I wish more out of AEW, where this is a multi-man match, and just because it's a multi-man match doesn't mean that any of the 5 men in this match sacrifice story or story elements from it. They had spots that made sense for each man. They had story build up. As we mentioned, it's a multi-man match, but Rollins and Owens are implementing their story of, hey, look at these three giants who want to just work together, so we're not, outnumbered and outworked. Even Lesnar's addition to the match, Jack. How great was it when he's got the mic? He says that Brock does whatever Brock wants, and he's a free agent. He can appear on any show, and he says, and he reminds us. He doesn't have to, Jack. This has no bearing on the match, but he says, and this was all due to the work of my advocate, Paul Heyman. You're like, golly gee. Goodness gracious. You almost believe this was the plan all along. Yeah. It's because it's one of the main criticisms of AEW too, is that, they have these multi-man matches and, they're great, they have great spots, but they lack in the story department,
Mm-hmm.
And this match really shows that you can have those multi-man matches with all these crazy spots, but still tell a consistent story from start to finish.
Right. You mean they're not catching each other, Jack? You mean they're not awkwardly working with the people they've been feuding with?
Yeah, and that's the last I'll say because as Sir Tony Khan has been proving lately, he doesn't respond to criticism all too well.
Goodness gracious! Speaking of criticism, let's get to the ending because
yes, the biggest.
We've got golly. So Lesnar's made his way back in the ring because nothing can slow him down. And he gets speared out of his man bun by Bobby Lashley, and it looked incredible. He took it so well. Jack Brock sells so good.
Yeah,
wasn't for long because Big E hits the big ending on Lashley. He goes for the big ending on the big beast, but he's too beastly, and we get an F5 on Big E, and the old 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar wins the WWE champion, ends Big E's reign, and it's not acknowledged. I mean, maybe they acknowledge it in like a feud or like a promo from Big E, but the headcanon of mine that I want to believe is he specifically targeted Lesnar at the end because he remembers what Lesnar did to Kofi, and it comes back to bite him because, as you mentioned, Brock Lesnar's just too beastly, and that comes to bite him back as Lesnar's the one that reverses it into the F5 and gets him down for the 3.
If I were King Woods, I'd be worried. I saw a meme that put Saturday's event, that first SmackDown on Fox, and even that Beast in the East event. Remember when Brock Lesnar beat all 3 of them in a 3-on-1 handicap match?
Yeah.
Gosh, what a throwback, and what a reminder that the New Day's greatest kryptonite is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, real crazy, and I'll admit, I knew for a fact once I saw this result, for the most part, it was going to be divisive as always when it comes to Brock Lesnar wins.
Where do they go from here, Jack?
Well, some people might say the Reigns story wasn't finished, and they might do something there. I saw people saying title for title, maybe.
Right.
A real interesting point I saw brought up was, maybe the networks are like USA Network is tired of their ratings being lower, and they see Reigns being like a draw, that they unify the title so that Reigns can be on both brands,
Yeah.
But then I feel like at that point, you might suffer from oversaturation.
Uh-huh.
Where, if Reigns is appearing so often, it's not going to have the same effect. But
yeah,
the story that it seems like everyone wants them to go with because of, again, as you mentioned, the years of build behind it, and they even tease it at the end, Lashley and Lesnar staring each other down. People are hoping that could be a WrestleMania type build.
Yeah.
I know they're holding a fatal 4-way between the 4 men to see who gets the next opportunity to challenge Lesnar on Raw tonight.
Did you see any of Raw? Because we're recording this on Monday.
I haven't seen any results yet.
On Instagram, I just saw the Paul Heyman bit. He said a lot of really funny and great things on behalf of Brock Lesnar, right? He said, you look at that. Roman Reigns is without me as his counsel for 1 week, and he catches COVID. He says, hey, you can beat the Rona, but karma is a B. And then he talked Big E up huge. Talked Big E about how, he did everything right, and he was everything the company needed him to be. And he says the only reason why he lost is because he was in the ring with the Beast, and he would have won otherwise. So put him up huge. And so now I turn to my original question, Jack, I posed earlier in this episode, which is, who wins the men's and women's Royal Rumble at the end of this month?
It's going to be real interesting to see. I feel it's funny. Anytime I think about Rumbles, it's I always think it's sometimes you can predict who's going to win. But it feels like for the past couple of years, it's truly been unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. Last year was won by Edge.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone saw
Can you imagine, Jack? Edge won a Royal Rumble in 2021.
Yeah, that one I remember completely just throwing both of us off.
Goodness gracious. And then the women was won by Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
That one was well-deserved and a little easier to call.
Yeah. It's interesting to see And, it's here. Again, I'm going to be not so optimistic. And I just want to bring this up because it was a real interesting point, bringing up the fact that, with Reigns catching COVID, sure he's not going to be out completely, but, he's missing time here. Brock is on Raw now. Tony Storm just left the company, all this stuff. And it's like someone brought up, hey, I think this is at the point that we realize how much some of those cuts really affected WWE or are coming back to affect them.
Yeah.
They really have a lot of holes that need to be filled. And similarly, I feel like if they had maybe a lot more of those guys, this Rumble would be even more unpredictable because who would have known or who knows how some of those guys would have been booked. But I think for the men, I think I'm looking at Bobby Lashley maybe as one of the main choices to set up his match versus Lesnar if they want to do that for Mania. Or more correctly, if Lesnar wants to do that for Mania. Maybe Big E to kind of get his way back into either, going after Lesnar or, to play up how much Lesnar is the New Day's kryptonite. He in turn decides to go after Roman because of the fact that the bloodline's been messing with the New Day as of late. I'm trying to think of names on both sides. See, again, it's kind of tough because all these people who they've cut, they're no longer there to add to the pool to throw out names. Maybe see, now it's kind of tough because of the fact of who both champions are. I don't think I see Kevin Owens winning it. In turn to heading into day one, there was people who thought Kevin Owens could win.
Yeah.
I think my main choice, though, is probably going to be Bobby Lashley just because of the tease that they did. And I think at this point, he's the only real guy I could see winning it because everyone else is kind of too busy getting established or in other feuds.
Yeah. I think that's a solid pick. And who do you think is going to win the women's?
The women.
I'm taking this, Jack. I'm going to hold us accountable. You said Lashley.
Yeah. So I saw someone pitch Bianca Belair because it seems like they're maybe going with her finally getting her revenge on Becky Lynch, but I feel like that's too far fetched. Like they could easily do that without a Rumble win, especially because she just won it last year. You don't want the fans to be like, "Oh, she won it again." Even though
there have been multiple winners.
Yeah, I know there have been people
multi-time winners.
Yeah, but knowing the fans these days, but I think my pick for the women's one, I don't have a real definitive one. I have two kind of ways I could go. I think it's either going to be Liv Morgan, because of the fact that the rope spot failed last night, they can't really have a effective way for her to challenge again.
Yeah.
The Rumble win could help her, and plus with the way she's over with the fans. Or I could see them giving it to a returning Bayley.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, that was good. Which I'm going to hold you to one, Jack. Name one.
I think I'm more confident in them giving it to Bayley than the Liv Morgan.
A returning Bayley. A solid shout. Goodness gracious. Alrighty. I got you down for Bobby Lashley and Bayley. Let me hit you with my logic. How much time we got?
11 minutes. Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Men's, I don't think you need a Rumble to set up Lashley versus Brock. I think Lashley cost Brock the WWE Championship between now and WrestleMania. And we just get a good old-fashioned two big men go at each other. Who's bigger? That gets the title off Brock. I don't know who holds it, but and I think that's how you get that matchup. Who wins the Rumble? I think it's Seth freaking Rollins. And I think Seth freaking Rollins spends his time debating who he's going to challenge. It could be either one. Can you imagine if it was Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns as champions? He's beaten them both, right? And I think he teases until he reveals he's going after the tribal chief. And he's going after a different Roman Reigns than he's faced. Wow. My vote is Seth freaking Rollins.
Interesting. I could definitely see it because of the fact that they teased it a lot, especially
And
during
we
the
need that
summer.
payoff, right?
Yeah, they never had a payoff, so I could see it happening. That's a good pick.
It's either going to be him or Veer.
Oh gosh.
Man.
The Royal Rumble winner is going to be Grayson Waller.
Goodness gracious. And then women, I haven't spent any amount of time thinking about except hearing you thinking out loud. I don't think you need a Rumble either to set up Bayley versus Bianca Belair. And I think that's a solid WrestleMania outing for the Raw Women's Championship. So we need somebody to come after and dethrone Charlotte. And I think...
I just thought of someone. But I'll let you go.
I'm going to choose Dewdrop. And she says, no, it's Piper Niven. I'm coming after Charlotte Flair, and I'm going to destroy her.
I just thought of someone. I won't have you write this down because it probably won't happen. And I'm going to sound super, how would you say, contradicting to my dad's point last year of, when Rhea Ripley just randomly challenged Asuka and got the shot without having any matches on the main roster.
Yes.
I would not be surprised, and I would more than welcome. You said we need someone to dethrone Charlotte Flair to get her pinfall victory that she didn't give her in 2020. Io Shirai debuts in the Rumble and wins it and takes out Flair, getting her pinfall victory that she never got.
We got to fill out that 30-woman Royal Rumble, Jack. We need some NXT talent up in here. Let's go, Io Shirai. Come on down.
I sound super contradicting because even though my dad and I were a fan of Rhea Ripley and stuff, it's like...
It can't be. No, it's not Rhea. She hasn't been building up to this. Nope. But I'm going to stick with Dewdrop. She's had a solid year. I think she's outlived the gimmick that people thought was going to ruin her. And that sounds like things are changing, Jack, right? She's wearing jackets and looking mean and, scowling,
Yeah.
Put her up against Charlotte Flair. Let her take her out. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I didn't even think that. I agree more with your points because I totally forgot Charlotte's even SmackDown champion because of the fact that Tony left and all that got canceled. So I totally forgot she was champ. We need someone to end this reign.
Oh no, Jack! Guess what? WWE on Fox just tweeted 47 seconds ago.
Oh no.
Alexa Bliss is coming back to Raw next week.
Oof.
It's going to be exciting.
It's going to get real exciting to see what happens leading up to Rumble. I think for the most part, everyone can agree the Rumble is probably a lot of people's favorite time of the year because of how unpredictable it can get, how overall fun the event is.
Yes, absolutely. You'll enjoy this tweet from Steve Argentaru at Steve TSN. He says, WWE's journey, Alexa Bliss is coming back to Raw, which means only one thing. Cue the Veer jokes.
It's going to be real interesting to see what happens with this Rumble, especially the women's one, because as we said, don't think they have enough women, so expecting to see a lot of NXT women get their call-ups. I'm calling it now. I'm more than likely expecting Raquel, Dakota, who else? Maybe EO. I wouldn't.
You can have NXT people be there, Jack, and show up at NXT on Tuesday. They ain't got to be called up. No.
True.
Come on.
True.
Fill out the car. Fill out the ring.
I'm telling you, we're getting Grayson Waller. AJ Styles is gonna find a way to win the WWE Championship before WrestleMania, and they're gonna have Grayson Waller win the Rumble.
Don't scare me, Jack. Don't put those thoughts in my head. I won't be able to sleep tonight.
I find it funny too because when we were discussing at the end of War Games, we were like, "Yeah, Grayson Waller's probably the most generic one," and here they are pushing him to the moon. He's getting a match with AJ Styles.
AJ Styles. Goodness Grayson. Goodness Grayson.
But that will be a closeout of our coverage of the Day 1 event. Will be interesting to see if they do this more. I mean, next year's January 1st is going to be a Sunday. They usually do pay-per-view Sundays, even though they've...
I think they announced, Jack, that the Royal Rumble is actually taking place on a Saturday.
I saw that too, yeah.
January 31st?
Yeah, they're slowly leaning into the Saturday ones, which I don't mind too much because it's better, we don't have to stay up anymore for them, but, it's...
Right, I mean the 29th. Sorry about that, but it will be a Saturday, which is delightful.
Yeah, so, going to be real interesting to see. A lot of predictions here. I am, after the RK Bro prediction, I've just fully lost confidence in all my predictions and expect them to, how would you say, age as fine as milk.
That's all right, Jack. I won't hold it against you.
But with that being said, I've been your host, Jack, joined by my fellow guests.
It's Mr. Solis.
I want to thank you all for joining us for another episode of Season 2 of the Rule 34 podcast, welcoming you into the new year. As always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode.